And if you talk to anybody in the film business, they'll tell you that's not how they get stories. They get stories the same way you and I do. People tell them, you really need to read this book. And they read the book, and they like it, and they see something in their mind that's visual about it, and then they determine to do something about it. What happened with me, so I'm going to finally get to that part of the story where I got lucky. Stacy Jorgensen with Jorgensen Pictures, someone I had never met. She somehow, and I still to this day don't know how she got my book, but she got a copy of Pennsylvania. She was on a flight, and she read the whole book during that flight. And she said she just absolutely loved it. We were out of town in Missouri visiting some friends and traveling up in Amish country, and we came back and all my mail was piled up there, and there was a very nice professional card from her that said, and I think she thought that I was so Amish that I didn't have access to any other form of communication, because she had written me this handwritten little letter that said how much she loved the book and she wanted to buy the film option. And so, being a plain person who lives off grid, I pulled out my cell phone and I took a picture of her and I emailed it to my agent, who contacted her, and that's when the very difficult part started. That's only the beginning. Somebody was interested in your story. The difficult part is that the business has changed so much. Everything we talked about Netflix and Hulu and everybody else making movies, the problem is that the way that these stories get into the film medium now has changed. Our own way of doing things as indies, where we try to locally source things, where we find people who are good editors, where we try to do things as cheaply as possible on the front end, hoping to benefit more on the back end. That whole indie mentality has really taken over the film and TV industry. And so the way that they do business has changed. I have a very old school New York agent who, if I tell you old school New York agent, that's him. Whatever you just pictured in your mind. He's angry, he's got patches on his sleeves, and he yells at taxis, and he's that guy. And he's contacting this very young Hollywood producer who is an indie. She operates like we do, and they talk a completely different language. And so it was very difficult for them to try to come together, because with the old school kind of New York way of doing things, there was only one way to do a film option, and that is they pay you a small fee for 1 year, and then they try to go out and marshal the resources to make the film. So basically, they're not buying your book, they're not buying your story, they're buying the right for 1 year exclusively to go out and try to prove to themselves and to financiers or to whoever else that they can make this movie. That way they don't have to pay you a bunch of money up front, and they can go out and try to sell the story to other producers, to a production house, to a studio, to a network. There's so many places now where these things are being made. So she and he went back and forth for weeks. And I had talked to a bunch of you here when we went out to the brewery, and it was going on at that time. And they finally got an impasse, because he's not an indie guy. And she was of the mindset that, hey, listen, take a lot less money up front, and let's get creative about other things we can do on the back end or in some other way to actually get the project made. So I wanted to use that as a segue to talk to you about different ways that these deals get made, so that when the time comes, you can actually have that. Had I had all of that information, I think I would have been better prepared to shorten the process. And if the process is shorter, there's a lot better probability your project is going to go forward.